Ladies, MBs and gentlemen, in this video I want to discuss a somewhat misunderstood and somewhat controversial phrase, educate yourself. This is partly inspired by something Thom Avella said in one of his recent videos.
If these questions for SJWs taught me anything, it's that we who are in support of social justice need to do a much better job of presenting our cause to them.
It's an interesting point that warrants discussion. Thom is talking mainly about feminism. While I do discuss feminism, I don't discuss it as much as some people think. I tend to discuss progressive politics in general, which will unavoidably sometimes involve discussing feminism. But I think it's important to do so as intersectionally as possible, not least because a number of people who make videos in favour of feminism on YouTube quite worryingly also show themselves to be Islamophobes, transphobes, ableists, racists, etc., etc. Also, when it comes to anti-feminism, much like any other conservative standpoint, I see a problem behind the problem, specifically that these people don't understand politics in general, hence the need for education. It's not for me to say what other people mean when they tell people to educate themselves, but I can tell you what I mean. You see, I actually have a background in teaching. Specifically, I've worked as a peripatetic music teacher. I did used to work in schools, but I gave that up so I could attend university, as I'm currently doing. So I am in the position of being both a teacher and a student, which is quite a useful position to be in order to make a lot of the points I wish to make here. When I taught in schools, my subject was extracurricular. As such, I never taught the unwilling. Every student I taught had chosen to learn from me, and if they weren't happy, they were free to stop having lessons at any time. Similarly, as a student in further education, I've chosen to do so, and I'm free to quit at any time. One of my tutors back in my college days, that's high school for you Americans, used to say, "You're responsible for your own learning." By this, he didn't mean that he wasn't going to bother teaching us anything. Rather, he meant that it was ultimately our responsibility to show up for lessons, bring a pen and paper with us, take appropriate notes, and do our homework. And perhaps most importantly, that he wasn't going to expend the kind of energy a school teacher would on badgering people to do these things. We were now in optional education, not compulsory education. In those days, the internet wasn't really a mainstream thing yet, so it was particularly important to listen and take notes in class. Googling it later on wasn't an option. You could perhaps look it up in a book, but that would necessitate knowing what book it was you need to look it up in. Nowadays, I'm amazed at how easy it is to get hold of information. I can find myself learning more about a subject in 1 hour than one time I would have been able to do in a week. This is what brings me to my overall point about educating yourself. If, in this, the age of information, people are so ill-read on the subjects they choose, and I do stress choose to talk about, that they come out with statements like this.
Fascism is a left-leaning principle. You can't have a fascist conservative. That doesn't make any sense.
And now I'm starting to understand how you think anarcho-communism is not an oxymoron.
The power is in your hands, women. It has always been in your hands. Women were never oppressed.
Now, knowing history, socialists are much more likely to actually try to become fascists.
In a scarce resource world, which is what we live on, any anarchist system will always inherently be capitalistic in nature.
Hitler was a socialist. Mussolini was a left-leaner.
We all know that Hitler was a vegetarian, and that there's a lot of evidence to suggest he was a feminist.
If you call yourself a libertarian, yet advocate for the banning of socialism, if they believe cultural Marxism is actually a thing, if they think anarchism and Marxism are the same thing,
you are a Marxist.
If they think Carl Benjamin is a fucking Marxist, if they think Bernie Sanders is a fucking communist.
And I don't want fucking, a right-wing populist or a fucking left-wing communist to be the nomination.
If they think people who say things like this and this
I'm just so goddamn sick of the left.
and this are left-wing, if they think anarchists who believe in rules are contradicting themselves.
I love anarchists with a lot of rules. That's always my favorite.
Yeah, that's a key component to anarchy. Lots of rules.
Very formalized structure of anarchy.
If they fail to grasp even the basic principle of intersectionality.
It seems really weird that feminists are even concerning themselves with a racist issue at all, considering they're supposed to be all about women's rights.
If they think this.
If I go outside and, snap my fingers and tell a woman to do something, she's like, well, you are a man. I'd better obey you.
Patriarchy says so.
Because it's the patriarchy that does that.
Or
They sit there and claim that there's no such thing as patriarchy.
Because, like the Illuminati and God, these are unfalsifiable hypotheses.
This is an adequate description of patriarchy. If they think no one on the left ever discussed economics prior to the 23rd of June this year, if they stumble across a concept such as psychological projection that professionals have been discussing for decades, nay centuries, and decide to name it after themselves, or if they say things like this:
yes, there are two genders, scientifically, two sexes.
And the first fucking line of their own source states that they're using the terminology incorrectly, then the issue is not that we, that is people on the left, aren't doing a good enough job of educating people on the right, but rather that people on the right have no interest in learning about these things in the first place. I agree with the sentiment of Garrett's recent video, where he pointed out that even a cursory look at Wikipedia would have given these people a better grasp of the subjects they choose to discuss than they have now. These people aren't just disagreeing with people on the left either. In some cases, they're taking it upon themselves to declare entire fields and theories of academia to be defunct. The fact that these people are as popular as they are as well is a strong indicator that this subculture in general has little, if any, respect for academia, or for the importance of learning, even on a very basic level. After all, they say in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. If the one-eyed in this analogy are demonstrating as much political and academic illiteracy as we just saw, then how blind must the blind be? These people also aren't coming to us as students, they're coming to us as challengers and as critics. And that's me being somewhat generous, given as some of these individuals are self-confessed trolls.
Fuck it, I'll just troll the guy.
In some cases, they're even trying to pass themselves off as academics. Also, if people think this sort of thing...
I don't care if she got raped, and quite frankly, I don't feel sorry that she has been raped.
Christy can hold whatever opinion she wants. She can think I'm dumb. I think she's fat, ugly and arrogant.
A man cannot be raped by a woman.
I will make you a rape victim if you don't fuck off. I think we should give the guy who raped you a medal. I hope you fucking drown in rape semen, you ugly mean-spirited cow. By the way, you have to admit, when I told you I hope you drown in rape semen, you got a little wet, didn't you? Well, you deserved it, so fuck you. I hope it happens again soon. Is that kind of like the way the rapist's dick went into your pussy? Or did he use your asshole? Or was it both? Maybe you should think about it really hard for the next few hours. Relive it as much as possible. You know, try to recall. Was it my pussy or my ass? Rape isn't fatal, so imagine my indignation when I saw a chat room called Rape Survivors. Is this supposed to impress me? Someone fucked you when you didn't want to be fucked and you're amazed you survived? Unless he used a chainsaw instead of his dick, what's the big deal?
Welcome to my suicide note. It's a suicide video. I figure, why do suicide notes have to be so depressing? Not this one. I just want to come out and explain my situation. As many of you know, I'm transgender. I was born as a boy, but I'm trapped in a boy's body. I'm a girl.
I'm a non-binary trans woman.
No, you're not. First of all, you can put makeup on a pig. That doesn't mean you want to fuck it. And secondly, there's no such thing as a non-binary woman, trans or otherwise. That doesn't make any sense because sex is binary. Do you even know what that word means?
I think it's time to surprise some people and let the world know who they are. It's time for me to doc drop people. Fuck them.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not illegal at all. There's nothing wrong with, if the information's there, you can Google it all you fucking like.
Yeah, love it. The second you cross me, the second you have an ill word, the second you hit the dislike button, I will find your name with my new MIT Harvard hacking genius friend. And I will reveal it to the world, your name.
Is acceptable behaviour, then I don't consider their education to be within my remit. In a learning environment, this is the sort of behaviour that gets you thrown out of a classroom, and off the top of my head, the best advice I could offer to people like this, if they desire education, is to perhaps go and ask their parents or legal guardians to have another crack at raising them. I also vehemently object to the notion I sometimes hear that we can somehow educate people via debate, which in this environment seems to have become synonymous with Google Hangout. If someone wants to debate me about anything, they need to demonstrate that they are at least as well read on the subject in question as I am. If they are even better read than I am, then they shouldn't be wasting their time with me. They should find another opponent, one who is as well read as they are. And I have no problem admitting that there are plenty of such people. Though a lot of them are unlikely to want to enter into such a hostile and puerile environment as we see on YouTube. So you might want to try and fix that if you want to bring such people onto your turf. One thing I have done more recently is started putting a bit more effort into using academic and other relevant references in my videos. And this is largely because if I never have to hear the phrase
citation needed
again, it will be too soon. The vast majority of the time when people throw these sorts of phrases out, they're basically saying, I haven't done my homework and I'm blaming you for it. It's a rather feeble way of framing one's own ignorance as skepticism or empiricism. But in the words of Josh Billings, the best way to convince a fool that he is wrong is to let him have his own way. Using academic references does raise the bar somewhat and might just encourage people to stop getting all their information on politics from YouTube videos and Tumblr blogs and actually take a look at some of the academic literature on the subject. It's as much as I can think of to actually try and move this painfully static conversation forward, even slightly. However, like I say, people are going to have to read this literature themselves. I'm not going to baby step them through it. That's basically what I mean by educate yourself. Essentially, use your initiative, don't expect to be spoon-fed information like a child, accept responsibility for your own learning, approach subjects you aren't familiar with as a student, not as a critic or a challenger, etc, etc. If people can do that, then they might well find those in the know are a lot more willing to help them out with things they are struggling to understand. Thanks for watching. Comments will remain open so long as they remain constructive and civil. Goodbye.
Not interested in Qui, who, and why.
Fucking feminist sister.
Got bleh.